A motion by Helmut.
Welcome to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township, those government people that make laws and regulations that affect you out there.
That's right, Elgin. And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard, Addison Township, or Oxford Township, these are the people that you elected. And the committees and the commissions that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that really important meeting or not. And that's why we're here.
And we're also here to spread rumors. And we're also here to dig out the humor in the meetings, right?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah, right. And if you're not there, the humor will, as he points out, come back and get you later.
And that's no joke.
That's no joke. So let's get on with it. Let's talk about the Addison Township Board of Trustees is the first meeting we want to discuss.
Okay.
Second one is going to be the Downtown Development Authority, DDA.
Okay.
In Oxford.
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 Is that the way it is? Okay. All right. His enunciation is pretty accurate, probably. But anyway, Addison Township Board of Trustees, Supervisor Bruce Pearson heads up that trustee board. Clerk Pauline Bennett and Treasurer Lori Fisher is on the board. Trustees Jacob Newby, who happens to be the newbie, the new guy.
Rather
And
appropriate.
actually, he's fast becoming one of the old guys. He's been there for a little while now.
What, ages you really quick there or what?
Yeah, I noticed him starting to get white hair now.
Yikes.
Yikes. Okay. Eric Sant is on that board, Linda Garrick, and Joe King. And the first thing, of course, preliminaries, Pledge of Allegiance, and they said a prayer at the beginning.
Oh, please.
Please. Jacob Newby is the new assignee for that.
Oh, is he?
Yep. So,
Okay.
And he's volunteered to give the prayer. Good job, by the way, Jacob. And consent agenda, which consisted of the November 20th minutes, the bills for $155,229.70. You always write those odd cents and send them a check, right?
Never round.
Never round. Okay. Never around. Never is he around. Okay. Renew insurance carrier was the subject in that particular consent agenda for the amount of $53,157. Resolution was also authorizing participation in the NOHAS program with Jacob Newby being the representative
Okay.
for the township.
Okay.
And let me see.
That's a good program.
It is. Clinton River Watershed also was included in that group of documents. Council dues for that would run roughly $500 a year. So that was approved. All these consent items were approved. How about that?
They consented.
They consented. They went on with the meeting. So shall we. Okay. There were interviews for bids for landscaping. And their project is to put trees and shrubs and so forth around the new building that they built last year.
Oh,
Was
yeah,
it a year
yeah.
ago or 2 years ago?
Seems like last year, but it was probably longer.
Yeah, time flies, when you're sitting next to this guy. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so there were a couple of plans. The first plan was from Superior Scape Incorporated, and Terry Newman spoke for the organization and gave a plan, a printed plan to each of the trustees. And they reviewed.
Did they allocate an amount of money to do this already?
No, it's out for bids at this point, and then they would establish, the limitation as to what the acceptance would be. So they pretty much have an idea, though, because of previous years and what they've done, around the township. And what's interesting is that a lot of these projects entail putting the shrubs in, maintaining the shrubs, and that maintenance is a good part of, can be a good part of the expense.
Oh, true. And that goes on year to year.
Right. And actually, Eric Sant brought up later the fact that when this is done, somebody said that maybe they should do it in phases. I think Eric said that. I'm pretty sure. If he didn't, we're going to appoint him.
Okay.
Okay. And phase one to do around the building, and then you have the fire pit, and also down near the
fire
ball
pit?
diamond. Yeah, they're going to have a fire pit near the hill.
I see.
Yeah. And I don't think they have too many shrubs in the wintertime.
Not going to have druids dancing around the fire pit or anything? No.
Druids? I don't know. Okay. You tell me. You know, you might give them a call and make a suggestion.
Maybe it's just a celebratory fire pit.
No, I think it's they're going to have ice skating or hill sliding.
Down,
Remember that big
down
hill
to the
they
fire
put
pit?
up to the fire pit.
Oh.
Okay. Where they'll roast marshmallows and
Nope.
s'mores and all the good stuff.
S'mores and hot dogs.
All those good things.
And brats.
Yeah, and don't be late. You want to be there, right? When that happens. So anyway, they'll probably plant evergreens, that kind of thing, around. And so anyway, that's part of the first plan. Second plan was from, let me see, United Landscape. And Lauren Boren, she spoke for the organization. It's a pretty good size business, you know, as far as nursery, that kind of thing, and doing this type of work. And she discussed also the sprinkler systems and how they should be tied in, you know, to the watering process for the plants around the building.
That's a good plan.
Yep, and she did discuss too, you know, what types of plants should be used and what kind of trees she suggested giving color. So when it was all said and done, and actually not done at this point, but said, they had a short discussion, the members did, and then each individual who was asked to leave, you know, for discussion came in and sat down, and they made a motion. Actually, I want to say the clerk made a motion that she felt that the United Landscape Group should be the ones to get the project. Excuse me. So Lori Fisher, though, she intervened and she said she feels that the plan wasn't really, didn't include everything. And that's where Eric Sent jumped in and he said, well, you know, it could be done in phases, and of course,
Did they attach a cost to this already?
they did. They actually approved it, let me see, what was the amount? Motion was $11,925 for the total project, including maintenance.
Okay.
So that's what
Over
was,
how many years?
well, I think it's a one-year contract at this point,
Oh, okay.
so
But it would go
we
year
could
to
say
year.
it was.
But it would go year to year.
Would you like to say it's a 10-year contract?
You could.
15-year?
You could do that. But you didn't.
No, we didn't say either one of those things, and I believe it's a year's contract. But anyway, Bruce Pearson, he said, jumped up and he says, whoa. He says, you know who is going to be saddled with this phase 2? He said, it's usually me. He said, I'm the guy who gets the volunteers, and he said, and I've got some real good volunteers that want to assist, but he said, you got to pull it all together and you got to organize it, and he says, and I have to roll up my sleeves and do this. And so he said, I can't guarantee you when phase 2 is going to be completed. But he said, if you want to do phase 1, which I really do insist that you do, go forward with it and get this accepted, and then we can talk about phase 2 down the line.
And what is phase 2 again?
Phase 2 would be doing around the ball diamond that's they're going to install down the hill,
Okay.
and also around the fire pit
Ah,
in that
okay.
area. So anyway, Bruce Pearson does a lot of these projects, you know, pretty much on his own, as you know. He's quite an active.
He's called the magician.
He's called the magician, yes, because he comes up with money, he comes up with volunteers, he comes up with sweat and labor. How about that? With that, we'll talk more when we come back right after this.
Do you love your community? So do we. Tune in our community access Monday through Friday, 9:30 and 1, and again at 7, Saturday at 9:30 and again at 7:30, and Sunday at 7. From new businesses to special events and everything in between, join the station that cares about our community.
Our OCTV News team, bringing your news closer to home. With local news anchors Elgin Nichols and Terry Stiles, Julie Hogan with Calendar of Events, Cody Wright with Sports, and David Kenny with Auto Talk and Science in the News. OCTV, serving Oxford, Leonard, and Addison communities for over 29 years.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we are talking about the Addison Township Board of Trustees meeting, which was held on December 18th. And so far, they've got the lawn going to be taken care of and shrubs planted and so forth, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, the next thing that came up is Fire Chief Morowski, had a couple of requests and for equipment. One is for a new Rescue Tech power unit from Douglas Safety Systems,
As in generator?
as in a Jaws of Life thing,
Oh,
as far as equipment, be able to handle it that way. It's a power unit for it. And the cost of that is $6,155. And he wanted them to waive the ordinance to get multiple bids, because this was a great opportunity, I guess, for the fire department. And the chief has been looking for this for some time
okay.
and found the best value. So they agreed to do
Well, if you're
that.
pinned in a car, you want Jaws of Life that work.
Yeah, where are those jaws? Bring them on. So anyway, so he got that approval. The next thing that he needed was an hydraulic extraction tool for the device. And that was an expensive piece too, but it's $7,000. But remember a while back where the First Methodist Church from Addison Township provided a grant for that?
Oh,
Yeah, you don't
What?
recall. Remember the meeting or
No,
the
no.
conversation we had?
No.
Anyway, that's the case.
I'm old,
So, yeah, hey, now he finally points it out. But anyway,
said him.
said he. So anyway, that's what happened, is that there's no expense to you folks out there on this one. It's covered by the First Methodist Church. And thank you, First Methodist Church. And pretty much Bruce Pearson said that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course the chief is very pleased with it. So everything was approved in that line, and the chief went away with a happy smile and a dance. So anyway, we spread that rumor. Let me see, there was an appointment that they made, a couple of appointments. One is Gene Malaya, and he was appointed to the Planning Commission.
Malia.
Malia? I keep getting that wrong. Is that the Italian version or the French?
I don't think it's,
Irish? Can't be Irish.
could be.
Okay. Hey, take a note. Anyway,
I think it's Maltese.
Gino Malia.
Yeah,
Okay. But it's spelled with an A.
there's an A on the end.
There's an A in the middle, too. Anyway, we give a lot of coverage here for Gene. Good job, Gene. Going to work on the Planning Commission. And Philip Marshall also was appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals in Addison Township.
Okay.
Both very responsible positions. Supervisors, introduction of the budget. Yep, he provided information concerning the budget, gave each of the trustees a packet containing recommendations for the budget, and instructed them to spend the next days between now and the end of Christmas 8 hours a day working on it and coming back with, suggestions or changes or acceptance.
If he ties it with a nice bow, they'll open it first.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have time to open it. I've been involved in the budget process, and it is time consuming. So you folks out there, appreciate your trustees out there and your people on the board. With that pretty much covers the Addison Township meeting that they had. Next one we're going to talk about is the Downtown Development Authority in Oxford.
Ah,
Aha. And the people serving on that board, and there's a number of them, Sue Basardit, who's also the president of the village council, and Rod Charles, Dorothy Johnston, Pete Schultz, who's the fire chief, Susan Schur, myself, Elgin Nichols, Nancy Rosenstrater. Did I say that right? Rosenstrater. I think that's
Okay.
right, isn't it? Okay. See,
What-
she got honorable
what he
mention.
said.
That's what I said. Okay. I got to poke him every once in a while and wake him up. He has a tendency to snooze off here.
Oh, no, I was listening.
Okay.
I was watching you struggle. No.
And Nicole Ellsworth. And she is the owner of 51 Street
Okay.
Restaurant. Very good restaurant, by the way. And I want to say Dorothy Johnston, too. She's a photography business.
Right.
And
Johnson Photography, yeah.
So we do have some business people on this board, which is a real good thing. We're really looking for more business people to be active in it. And what's interesting is this particular meeting that they had on December 18th, had a lot of people in the audience. And that was primarily due to Nicole Ellsworth getting out, pounding on doors, talking to people, and saying, look, you need to participate, get there and see what's going on at the DDA. After all, the Downtown Development Authority, they represent the businesses downtown.
That's true.
Right? So
That's good for her, because usually when a big crowd shows up, it's usually because someone's ox is being gored.
yeah, right.
But to just show interest in the whole process, that's great.
It is. So anyway, so the first thing they asked for is public comment. Nothing. Okay, no public comment at that point. They did take a roll call, and two people were missing that evening. Susan Schur was out, and Nancy Rosenstrater was gone. So,
Okay.
and both those people were excused absences. So there was definitely enough people there for a quorum.
What happens if it's an unexcused absence?
They get a big red mark.
I see.
They get tar. and
A
feather.
black star on their personal record.
Something along that line. I have no idea. When you were a kid in school, you probably got a lot of those, right?
Oh,
The
sure.
little black stars. All the other kids got silver and gold, and you got little black ones. Is that the way it worked? Santa Claus, coal.
Jeez.
Okay, you folks know all about David Kenny now as he was growing up.
From his personal biography.
Yeah, actually, he was a pretty good kid. All he did is produce dynamite in the basement.
I did not.
Did too. Anyway, let's go further with this. They approved the proposed agenda. They approved the November 20th, 2017 regular minutes, and then the consent agenda was discussed. The board chair report, he said, I have no report, so I took care of that quick enough. Treasurer's report, and bills for November, $20,402.81. Get your pen out.
Okay.
All right. Money will be coming. It's in the mail.
Sure it is.
Right? Maybe not. Anyway, revenue expense report for December was discussed. Code enforcement activity report, police report, which are standard reports each month to the DDA. Executive director's report was the
Are there
last
two
report.
levels of code enforcement? One for the DDA and one for the village?
No, the village has one code enforcement, although police have regulations or laws too. They're separate. I forget what they're called. Anyway, they
Rules.
are separate. Yeah, rules.
Rules.
Law rules, the ones you get tickets with. Actually, in ordinances, you can get tickets with those too, and they did discuss this a wee bit down the line, just a wee bit. Unfinished business, website photos was a discussion. Actually, the website became quite a discussion here because it's out of date. And they really don't have a webmaster at this point, and they're just trying to gather the new executive director, Glenn Pape, is trying to gather the information as to how to reassemble or redo the website for DDA. And of course,
Good for minutes from 2015. But
right. The village has the same problem,
I know,
by the way.
I know.
So both have to be fixed,
Yeah.
repaired somehow. With that, we'll be back talking about things that need fixed and repaired.
Are you a movie buff? A gamer? A fan of music? Or do you just enjoy all things media? Then you should watch Media Maniacs on Monday through Friday at 3:30 and at 11:30 on the weekends, right before the all-night movies. Remember, Media Maniacs, They review everything, and they're just crazy enough to do it.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kinney.
And we are talking about the Downtown Development Authority meeting that they had on December 18th. And we're discussing the website.
Ah, yes.
So-
It's been languishing.
Right. Well, let me see. The executive director said that he would have that up and at least have the cumulative information required to get the site back online in January. So good for him.
Yep.
Now, the other thing that came up was the Witches sign grant. Witches is requesting.
Which sign was that?
Well, what they want to do is change. Yeah, they want to change the lettering of the existing sign that they have. They don't really want to do a big major, rip the sign down, put a new one up. And the change for that would cost their share $333. Obviously, the change in terms of expense is much more than that, but the grant that they provide through the DDA is $333.
Is that a CDBG?
No.
No.
It's a grant. It's grant funds which are available to you business people out there, as well as a facade grant monies that are available as well. And
That's through the DDA?
through the DDA. And actually, the question was asked, what do you do in order to qualify for the block or for the grant? Now you got me talking block grant.
Well, you start out with the two words.
I did.
Oh, please.
It's all my fault, yes. So anyway, Glenn Pape said that first thing you have to do is file an application, with the DDA, which would be he, Mr. Pape. And then from there on, which will be a number of questions, after that, it will be given to the committee. And after the committee, it'll be given to the DDA board to make the decision, which is what is happening with the fishes right now.
How long does that process take?
Witches, not fishes. What?
What did you just say?
You were talking about carp earlier. So I'm back to fishes. No, it's witches.
Okay.
Hey, folks, witches, right down the street,
Witches.
Washington Street. So anyway, they're
Which
gonna,
is right down the street.
Yeah, and it was and it was approved unanimously. So that took care of that. They had Sue Oles, who owns Boulevard Boutique, stood up and spoke concerning the dumpsters, and because people haven't been maintaining the dumpsters, and
Maintaining them or emptying them?
properly without spilling things all over.
Is this the new waste removal company, or?
Well, they're required just to dump the dumpster, and the people that put it in the dumpster, if they drop it all over the, around it, they're not responsible for cleaning it up. And actually, the DPW has been handling it, Don Brantley and his group, and it's extra work for
Is
them.
that simply because people are being careless, or because the dumpsters are completely full and stuff falls out?
Yes.
Oh.
Mostly careless. Now, the other subject that came up was snow removal. And Sue Passarda brought that particular interesting conversation up, and the fact that after the big snowstorm we just had, snow was being pushed up and piled up at the end of the street along Washington Street and other areas. And she was concerned about snow removal, and it's a discussion that the DDA has had and the Village Council has had in
Are we talking
previous
about
years.
proprietors pushing the snow out towards the street?
Right.
Or snow removal equipment
Both.
piling it up?
Both. Now, Don Brantley's group, if it's the street, they push it down to the end and then they remove the snow when they get an opportunity to do it.
Okay.
Now, the business owners really are supposed to shovel their walks. Now, I think there's some confusion there, and that came up too. Is it the village who's responsible to remove the sidewalk snow, or is it the businesses?
Remove it or push it
to
aside?
the side, get it off the sidewalk.
I see.
And the point was made
Normally
that
puts it in the parking spot.
the point was made that if Dave Kinney walks down the street and if he slips on your sidewalk in front of your place, guess what?
Lawyers.
Right? So you don't want that to happen. The other thing too is that they said, well, what about businesses that are closed? Because they have a few businesses on Washington Street that is closed. And the point was, be a good neighbor. Shovel it out, for them. That's the kind of thing that you do, right?
Sure.
Okay, sure. Except for him. He's still laying on the sidewalk. Dialing, what's your lawyer's number? I don't know. But anyway, that's what
Call
could
Sam.
happen. So they did have a discussion concerning snow. And the point was given back to, let's discuss this with Don Brantley, the director of DPW, and have him make suggestions as what we can do to improve it. Right? Okay, good idea. Anyway, what else happened? They discussed the 2018 meeting schedule, was given and approved. DDA member planning commission, they needed a member for that board, and there actually isn't anyone that we have right now on the board that can take that position. You got Pete Schultz that's on that board already. I can't do it because I'm with the township, serving with the township. So anyway, so they've put an appeal out trying to get somebody to come forward. And if you folks are interested in joining the planning commission, contact the village offices and let them know that you have an interest in it. Okay? Quite an interesting thing. Way to meet and greet people
That's true.
with forks and fire and whatever. So anyway, take part and develop what's going on in your community. Be a good part of it. Extended public comment. There was no real additional heat, fire, brimstone coming from the audience.
Or Gordoxes.
Or Gordoxes. None of that went on. So what they did is they adjourned the meeting and went on to a strategic work meeting, which was headed up by Glenn Pape.
How does that differ than the meeting itself?
Well, strategic planning is what it is.
Yeah.
And the strategic plan, he discussed it with everyone on the board. Objectives, of course, are to develop consensus in-depth vision of downtown Oxford.
So was this a
And
closed
branding.
session?
Yeah, no, it could have been open.
It could have been?
Yeah, it could, if they wanted to, but they didn't. I mean, they did close it at this point. There's no reason for cameras to be there at this stage because it's strictly providing the members with documentation, and the discussion will go on at a later date.
Okay.
So it's just preliminary to it, how they want to brand the village, branding.
Been
Like-
doing that forever.
Yeah, small done right, which was a proposal, which they've been using for some time. The point came up that a number of consultants have been brought in the past with plans on how the village should move in certain directions. And after the plans were developed at the cost of considerable expense to you residents for these planned projects,
Were they
they
executed?
said, no, that's the point. They were sitting on the shelf. Nothing has happened. So
Oh.
anyway, so the members here said, well, let's drag those little suckers, those buggers off the shelf, and let's take a look at them and see if they can fit, what we're doing now in, along with
Now
what's
that
going
the
on.
MDOT train is
1.4.
coming down the tracks?
Yeah, and I can see that train. I see the light back there, don't you?
Well, it's more distant than it used to be.
Yeah, but and no matter what, don't go into the light. Tracks could run over you, or a train could run over you. Okay, they did talk about objectives for improvement and to maintain physical environment around, improve and maintain public infrastructure. Those were discussed, parking lots, streets, all those things. They're also looking at wayfinding signage, better signage to get you folks directed to parking areas within the village, and lots of other things. And if you'd like to learn more about this, you might want to tune in to the Downtown Development Authority meetings at occtv.org.
Click
And
on
what's coming-
programs.
Yes, what's coming up?
And we have not that many meetings, but in January on the 2nd at 7 o'clock, the Village of Oxford Planning Commission. I understand they might be waffling a bit whether they might have that meeting or not, but who knows.
Waffling.
On 1/8 at 7 o'clock, the Village of Leonard Council, and at 7 o'clock, the Oxford Township Zoning Board of Appeals, which may or may not meet. So check on that one.
Well, let's not waffle anymore. I'm Elgin Nichols,
And I'm Dave Kenny.
and we'll catch you next time right here on Minutes by Minutes.
And then we'll do Belgian waffles.
Happy holidays from Evergreens, located at 33 Pleasant Street, right behind Oxford Farm and Garden.